Renew, a leader who leads Ferrari to the edge of irrelevance, is crazy, or undercover genius? Today we unravel the enigma behind the most controversial decision of Formula One season, the extension of Frédéric Vasseur's contract as director of the Ferrari team. Ferrari chose to make official the renewal of Frédéric Vasseur just a few days before the Hungary Grand Prix. It was a calculated moment, not only because of the proximity of one of the most strategic races of the calendar, but because it coincided with weeks of speculation that had put the stability of the equipment in check. The announcement, brief and direct, confirmed that Vasseur would continue in command beyond 2025, just when the category is prepared for one of the greatest regulatory changes in the modern history of Formula One. The decision itself did not surprise everyone for what it implied, but for when it was done. Many expected a reaction based on immediate results, but Ferrari chose to anticipate any filtration and close ranks around its sports director. At the sports level, this season has been one of the most difficult for the Scuderia. Ferrari has failed to find consistency in its performance and already accumulates more than 260 disadvantage points in front of McLaren in the Construction Championship. The gap is not only numerical, it is technical, strategic, organizational. The errors in the race have been repeated, the strategy decisions are still questioned, and the SF25 car has proven to have basic deficiencies that move away from the rhythm of the leaders. In this context, renewing Vasseur seems, at first glance, a contradiction. How to justify the continuity of a leader when the results indicate setback? The answer seems to be in the way Ferrari wants to redesign his identity as a team. Vasseur was not hired only by his credentials as a manager, but for his long-term vision, his pragmatic approach, and his ability to build a team from his foundations. Since its arrival, it has tried to restructure internal operations, impose order in a historically chaotic environment, and focus too much on media pressure. This renewal, therefore, is not a reward for the results of 2025, but an investment in the model that Ferrari wants to implement for 2026. For weeks, the figure of Frédéric Vasseur was the epicenter of a media storm that seemed to have no end. In Italy, where Ferrari is almost a religion, the results of the 2025 season were unacceptable, and the sports press had no qualms about loading against the Frenchman. The most influential sports newspapers, from the Gazzetta dello Sport to Corriere dello Sport, turned to hard criticism, questioning not only Vasseur's sports management, but even its authority within the team. It was speculated that John Elkann, president of Ferrari himself, was losing patience with him. Each track error, every doubtful decision in strategy, fed headlines that demanded an immediate change in the direction of the team. What most caught attention was not only the ferocity of criticism, but their frequency and coordination. In each press conference, Vasseur was interrogated about his future with an insistence that scratched in harassment. The breakdown came after the Canada Grand Prix, when Vasseur, visibly annoying, broke his usual diplomacy to describe as disrespectful and destructive speculation. In his words, there was not only frustration, but a warning. That type of pressure not only damaged his personal image, but destabilized the entire team. In parallel, an even more dangerous threat was unleashed than the covers of the newspapers: Christian Horner's shadow. The former director of Red Bull, recently separated from the team after an internal scandal, began to be mentioned as a possible successor of Vasseur. Although initially sounded more media fantasy, several reports agreed that there had been informal conversations between Horner's environment and Ferrari's environment figures. For a structure historically susceptible to public opinion, these rumors could destabilize internal decisions. It was not just the press by launching hypotheses, it was the perception that Vasseur's position was officially at stake. In this context, the renewal announcement becomes even more significant. It was a blow to the table, an act of challenge. Ferrari not only denied any contact with Horner, but renewed Vasseur at a time when any other team would have dismissed it by pressure. It is a decision that points to a cultural transformation within the organization. Historically, Ferrari has been a revolving house. Team leaders, technical directors, and even pilots have been replaced before the first crisis symptom. This time not. This time, Ferrari said no at pressure. Not panic. And above all, not to the easy solution to sacrifice a leader when things don't go well. The most intriguing is what this decision reveals: the internal state of the team. According to sources close to paddock, support for Vasseur within Ferrari has been more solid than many expected. Not only by the senior managers, but also from the technical and operations areas. Its ability to organize, prioritize, and protect the outer chaos equipment is valued. But there are also tensions. Some veteran engineers still doubt their approach, especially with regard to technical flexibility and rapid decision-making. And although the internal environment is more stable than in past years, the pressure will continue to grow if the results do not arrive soon. The renewal of Frédéric Vasseur cannot be understood without considering the public and private support he has received from his two most visible figures, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. In a team that has been historically divided by egos, policies, and power struggles, the unity that their pilots showed in support of its director was as unusual as powerful. This consensus between two generations, two completely different profiles, and two very different personal stories has been one of the fundamental pillars that explain why Ferrari decided to shield to Vasseur in the middle of the storm. Lewis Hamilton arrived in Ferrari not only as a champion in search of a new challenge, but also as a media figure capable of transforming the environment of any team. But his arrival was not a random bet. From the beginning, Hamilton made it clear that his decision to sign with Ferrari was deeply influenced by the presence of Vasseur. "I knew him since the time of Formula 3 and shared with him a vision of what a team needs to be champion: structure, clarity, and stability." In recent statements, Hamilton said without surroundings that Fred is the main reason why he is in Ferrari. It is not a political courtesy. It is a loyalty statement, a sign that the British is willing to build with Vasseur, although that implies a year of transition or even frustrations. This support has an incalculable value, not only because of the figure that Hamilton represents, but for the type of message that transmits into the equipment. A world champion with the experience of having gone through Mercedes's most glorious era is saying that he trusts the plan. He is saying that he does not seek immediate results, but sustainability. He is saying, in short, that the only way to win in the current F1 is with time and cohesion. On the other side is Charles Leclerc, a pilot formed in the orbit of Ferrari, who has lived all stages of the organizational chaos of the team in recent years. Leclerc has suffered instability, has lost races due to strategy errors, has loaded with the frustration of a competitive but inconstant car. And yet, his support for Vasseur has been equally firm. In his statements after the announcement, Leclerc highlighted Fred's ability to keep his head cold and isolate the external noise team. For someone who has lived entire seasons under the unbearable pressure of the Italian press, this type of leadership is a shelter. Leclerc has also suggested that, under the command of Vasseur, he has felt for the first time in years that Ferrari has a plan, that is not improvising, that there is a clear address, and that, for a pilot who has gone from promise to the emotional leader of the team, represents a substantial difference. The fact that both pilots are aligned in their support is not a minor fact. In Ferrari's recent history, internal divisions between pilots have been current currency. It is enough to remember the clashes between Vettel and Leclerc, or before between Alonso and Massa. That Hamilton and Leclerc speak with one voice about the importance of keeping Vasseur indicates that there is a strong nucleus that is consolidating in Maranello. This type of human, emotional, and strategic support cannot be underestimated. In a sport where the tenths are won both in the wind tunnel and in the meeting room, having your two pilots aligned in the vision of the project can make a difference between a dysfunctional team and a competence machine. In this sense, the support of Hamilton and Leclerc not only helped support Vasseur in office, he gave him legitimacy. He made him its director. And that, in Ferrari, is something that was not seen a long time ago. Ferrari knows that the 2026 regulation represents a unique opportunity, a window that appears once every decade, and that can allow rewriting the competitive order of the grille. In that context, having a consolidated leader with time to prepare that transition is not an option. It is a necessity. Vasseur has worked for years with engineers, suppliers, and pilots in different categories, and its understanding of how to build a project from scratch can make a difference. Its presence guarantees continuity in the conceptual development of the new car. And that, in an F1 where every day counts, it can be as valuable as half a second per lap. There is only one vision, planning, and leadership that still has to demonstrate that it can turn those intentions into tangible results. The real debate that opens now is not if Vasseur is good or bad. It is whether Ferrari can sustain this new course in an ecosystem that punishes patience and reward the immediate results. Because in Formula 1, the narratives change with each race. And if the team does not show clear signs of progress, that long-term construction narrative can quickly become another story of failure. Fans do not expect endless reconstructions. They expect victories. They expect championships. And above all, they expect a team that does not promise them that next year will be the good. That's where you enter. You who follow each classification, each press conference, every rumor of the paddock. You who know the history of precipitated decisions, but also the glories built with patience. You know that Ferrari is not any team. It is an institution. And as such, every movement it makes has a historical weight. That is why I ask you directly, is this renewal the first step towards a new era of stability and success, or the last act of faith before another disappointment? Leave me your opinion. Do you trust the Vasseur project? Do you think Hamilton and Leclerc will be there when the fruits of this decision arrive, or will they get tired before that happens? Is this the Ferrari that needs Formula One of the future?